Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Thursday, the 14th of May, the year of our Lord 2020. We are live from the nation's capital, right across from the Supreme Court of the United States, where now they're doing conference calls because of this pandemic, and across from the plaza, which the nation's capital resides, where the U.S. Senate is now back in the House also today. I guess they're doing it telephonically. Another big game day. Today is the first, I don't want to call it a witch hunt, because not a witch hunt yet, but it's starting. I think is it Oversight or Energy, one of the subcommittees is going to have a hearing today with the new whistleblower, the head of BARDA, Dr. Richard Bright, and also a friend of the show, Mike Bowen, who I think his first national interview was after being found by Jack Maxey, the industrialist, the guy that bought the Kimberly-Clark production line down in Texas, outside of Dallas. Is also going to be the second witness today. So we anticipate he's going to be saying terrific things about brother Jack Maxey. And we'll see all that. Episode 175 right now. We're live from the nation's capital, the capital of the United States Federal Reserve, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, also FM 99.1 at 103.9 in Chicago, America's Voice, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution. They are Dish Channel 219. Newsmax TV, which is in 70 million homes, and then throughout the world on G News, G Media, subtitle in Mandarin, throughout the world in English, all over, and we get tremendous feedback. By the way, Raheem, I want to tell you that a great long-term reader of the Wall Street Journal heard our piece last night and wrote a brilliant letter. I've sent to you, if we can fit it in, I do want to read that letter. She was outraged. She's a 30 or 40-year subscriber to the Wall Street Journal and was absolutely outraged and had missed it, quite frankly, because she had read the Wall Street Journal early in the day and didn't quite put two and two together. And she's someone who kind of follows this, particularly follows the freedom movement throughout the world. And so we got a letter. So great job yesterday. Jack Maxey, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Another day of 3 million new job losses or claims. It gets us over 35 million, I think 36 million. We have David BUNSEN. We have a lot of economics. I remember we have a pandemic, an economic crisis it triggered, a financial crisis on top of that, a geopolitical crisis, and then we got the good old politics in the United States of America. Those 5 things we focus on every day here at War Room Pandemic. David BUNSEN from the West Coast, one of the most astute strategist, analyst about capital markets. So David, you've been at the forefront of these observations about where we are economically. You saw the jobs report today. I want to tie it back to what the chairman of the Federal Reserve said yesterday. What does this jobs report mean to you? Where do you think we are as an economy? And what actions do you see coming out of Washington, D.C. to sort this mess out?
Well, obviously, the jobs report was atrocious, and it's going to continue to be, and none of that is necessarily a surprise. This is actually the first week, Steve, to this morning, where the jobless claims were higher than expected. They've been brutal every single week, but each week they've actually been a little less brutal than consensus. The Fed is pretty much all my attention right now because fiscal stimulus is baked in. Congress is going to start going for what they normally go for, which is handouts to their constituents. The state and local fight is going to be a big diversion, and you're going to get a real diminishing return on fiscal stimulus going forward. The Fed is where the action's at. And Powell said something yesterday that no one's talking about that to me should be the big focus. We already know that he's asking for more stuff from Congress. Bernanke used to ask him that all the time, too. The Tea Party was never going to do it. There's a certain thing baked in, you're going to get fiscal. It's all monetary. And I think they're going to yield curve control. The last time we did it was World War II. Japan's been doing it the last few years. They're going to hold the whole yield curve down for years to come and eventually monetize the federal debt.
But this is, I want to talk about this for a second. So remember, for our audience, and some of them, fiscal means what Congress does and the White House does. That's kind of putting money into the system. What the Fed does is the balance sheet of the United States. They really deal with the capital markets aspect. To kind of put it in layman's term, when you say the yield curve control, are you talking about negative interest rates? Are you talking about, right now, I think the 10-year Treasury is still under 1, isn't it? And don't this is anti-populist. This is the problem with the Obama? Remember, Obama did this and Bernanke did this in 2008 to save the system. We had the greatest transfer of wealth in the world's history in those years with President Obama, with Geithner and those guys, to save the system. The top 1%, all the juice went to them. And so that's why you have millennials that are like 19th century Russian serfs. So are what you saying, sir, that you think Powell, this whole concept of the managing the yield curve, which sounds great in these Wall Street, think tanks and guys like yourself in the big capital markets, but for the little guy, the deplorable that's listening, you're essentially saying the next 10 years you're going to get crushed, correct?
Yeah, I think it'll be more than 10 years. And I think by crushed, what we mean is Japanified, meaning no growth. And so the yield curve issue is basically them manipulating the long end of the curve down, long-term rates. That sucks out growth. That disincentivizes people to build new things into the future. Okay, now here's where the populist angle comes in, this Main Street lending facility. We've never had anything like this. They're talking about $600 billion. I think $50 billion of that comes from the Treasury Department, and then the Fed levers up the rest. I believe Powell's setting the stage to ask Congress for more money in that facility because there's no question the rest of monetary policy is anti-deplorables. It bids up risk assets. It bids up things for rich guys, but it holds down economic growth, which hurts Main Street.
Also, savings accounts, everything, your money market account, it all goes to zero. There's no way for the little guy to accumulate any kind of returns to build his capital, right? You're
That's
essentially,
right.
I don't think your house is going to go up. You get zero interest rates on your savings account. So you're a sucker if you save. You get zero on your money market fund. So what's in it for the little guy? What's in it for the deplorable that is the backbone of the Trump revolution?
And here's the thing about the little guy. We think about the little guys, millennials or younger. But see, a lot of people are senior citizens that are savers. And all of a sudden their CDs and their money markets are paying 0%. So the little guy in this case, deplorable, can be a 20-year-old and a 75-year-old. And I think that's problematic. But look, President Trump, I don't think should be asking for negative rates. Negative rates hurt the little guy. It does look like the Fed's pushing back on that. The answer to your question is if we're going to get anything populist friendly from the Fed, it's this Main Street lending facility. And where I see him setting it up to do it, and where I think Mnuchin and Trump are on board, is a backdoor way to help shale, to help the little guys in Texas, not the big integrated oils. Small producers can use the Main Street lending facility as a backdoor way to get capital market support to our oil sector, which it obviously needs.
Dave, I want to dive into this a little bit deeper because the whole U.S. energy market is under tremendous turmoil. Obviously, we see what's going on with the Saudis and the Russians. We're under attack there. But how much of this is simply the demand issue? And when demand comes back, will it be there? And how much, from your opinion, is it this lending that they need this bridge to get through? Or do we need to be taking an entirely new look at the U.S. energy sector about what future demand is going to look like as far as a way to help them back? So I'd like to get kind of your big picture thoughts on how we save this industry.
Yeah, it's a great series of questions, Jason, and the answer to all three is yes, yes, yes. You do need liquidity support, but you only need it because of this erosion of demand, which is absolutely coming back and frankly has already bottomed. I think March and April represent the bottoming of that demand. How do you get worse than zero people flying and driving? So you start getting a slow pickup of that global demand for oil. But see, the shale's a levered sector, right? There's a lot of debt on the balance sheets of these companies, but most of this debt doesn't mature till after the election, 2022, 2023. They need liquidity to get through it so that their collateral stays intact, so that they still have their assets. Otherwise, the Exxons and Chevrons and private equity come in and pick them apart. If they get a little
But Dave, hang on. But
support,
Dave, hang on for a second. Hang on a second. The Saudis just went full gangster on us, right? The lifting costs and the break even out in the Permian Basin and up in the Marcella in Pennsylvania and up in North Dakota. These job engines for American energy dominance. It's $30 to $40 a barrel. When do you think we get back to that without basically stopping the Saudi oil from coming in here and putting tariffs on this thing? How do we need to go full protectionist, don't we, on the American energy sector?
Well, see, there's divided loyalties in Texas, Steve, on that, right? Because the refining industry would get killed if we put tariffs on the Saudi imports. I still think they're going to end up doing it because I think Saudi has finally ticked off the right people in the administration. And that's a whole long-term story that could break apart 75 years of American geopolitics. Saudi is pegged to the dollar, Steve. There's very little they can do here to use their currency to manipulate what's going on. And yet the weapon we have, of course, is we've been providing them military support and protection from Iran since World War II. So we have the cards, but the president's got to use them. And you start getting Jim in Oklahoma, senator there. You got these guys on Senate Foreign Affairs telling the White House, let's go. We got to flex with Saudi. So that helps the supply side. The demand side is exactly what you said. You need to get 30 to 40 oil to break even. We're back to 26 at WTI. We're not that far away from keeping the lights on, but that's only going to come from demand. There's nothing you can do with Saudi to help the demand side. We got to get this economy back open.
Okay, the reason I want to have you on today is you're the first guy that's actually tied what Powell said the other day to the Japanification of the United States. And remember, I was very involved with Japan for 20 years. They've had 3 lost decades, and they have very smart people that have tried everything, every fiscal solution, every monetary solution, the smartest guys in the world at the time. 30 years of a lost generation. And now what you see, it brings a demographic implosion. People don't want to have kids. They've lost faith in the future, and they've lost faith in the system. You're saying we're going there. Larry Kudlow, Steve Moore are Mr. Growth. Donald Trump built this amazing economy he did because he's a growth president. How and what situation did we get into that he would sign off on? Powell basically managing the yield curve so we're like Japan.
Well, see, I think that what made Japan Japan is the same thing making us Japan, and it's not starting with the monetary side. It starts with the excessive debt. Japan became 250% debt to GDP. We're on our way to 130% debt to GDP. And then the central banks come out because they're desperate, because you get this deflationary spiral of excessive debt. European Union's living through it right now. So I don't think it's something that Trump has done, signing off on the Fed going forward. It's the only card the Fed has. The Fed can't do fiscal. The Fed can't do anything but keep liquefying capital markets. Now, you said something interesting. I don't agree that Japan stopped having kids because they had no growth. I think they had no growth because they stopped having kids. And I think that cause and effect is a very important distinction. America has still been a mostly Judeo-Christian, work ethic, growth, family-oriented economy. 130% debt to GDP is unacceptable, but it's a heck of a lot better than 250%. The only thing that's going to un-Japanify us is to start growing, which was the Trump economic agenda, with the things our friends Kudlow and Moore believe in. You have to get growth, but then you're also going to have to cut spending into the future.
Okay,
that's where there's been no political will.
Hang on, but hang on. This is the Gordian knot, and we got about 30 seconds. How do you get growth when you got this debt and you're in a free-falling economy, you can't even open? So Kudlow says this all the time. Mnuchin says all the time, I love the concept of growth. But in 30 seconds, tell me how we get there.
Well, first of all, the way you don't have the spending suck out growth when you have an emergency is you don't excessively spend when you're not in an emergency. That's the problem. I'm all for the stimulus now in the middle of an emergency. The problem was all the budget deficits we were running before we had it. How you get growth is you have to invest in the engines of growth in our country. It's manufacturing, it's industrial production, it's the energy sector, it's R&D. You give incentives to business to grow. Small business has been our engine of growth since Reagan.
Dave, we got to bounce. Do you have a Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's at David BUNSEN, and I'll tell you, I'd love to keep talking about this stuff, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
We're going to have you back on. You're brilliant. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Hashtag War Room Pandemic. We always are ahead of the curve. For the deplorables out there, you're farther ahead than the hedge funds and all that. Remember, deflationary cycle. We're going to get all to it in Fauci next on War Room Panel.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows, and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
What kind of world do you want to live in?
I want people to wear what they want.
I want to bring pride back to our communities.
I want us to be free to talk about mental health.
I want humanity to reconnect with nature.
I want sustainable to be the solution, not the alternative.
Make the world you want. You've got the power, we've got the tools. And now, take your online presence to the next level with the new GoDaddy Websites Plus marketing.
Hi, Linda. Looks like you've got a prescription to fill. Any idea how much that's going to cost in there? The exact same drug that's $10 at this pharmacy is $150 at this one. GoodRx finds prices and discount coupons on every prescription. Just input the drug name and instantly find savings at virtually every pharmacy in America.
Next. What can I do for you? Here's my prescription, and I have a coupon from GoodRx. Nice price.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions with GoodRx.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Forget the happy talk. The country's on the line right here, okay? This is why we do this show every day. This is why we work 24/7. This is why we got the great guys, Greg Manns and the team of people who don't even see all over the country that contribute to the War Room engine room. That was one of the most brutal, although Dave Bonson's got the upbeat personality. He's out of Newport Beach. He's living the good life. That was brutal. And the reason I wanted to have him on is that Powell gave you the hint of how brutal this is going to be. So we're going to get in much more in detail of this, but essentially Japan's your future, and Japan's not a future the United States wants to have. It's not a future the United States can have. And I disagree with Dave, and we'll have him back on. Absolutely, the lost decades of the 90s started to accelerate this demographic bomb. And you're going to see it here. You're going to have people, the young generation that are treated like Russian serfs are just going to say, I'm not going to have 3 kids. I don't even have a kid. The guy, I can't find a mate because he doesn't have any economic prospects. Negative interest rates, zero interest rates, all this highfalutin Wall Street talk, and Dave's fantastic. Yield curve control and management. It means you're going to have no money, okay? You're not going to get any money on your savings. It means interest rates is zero, means you get zero on your savings account, you get zero on your money market account, and hey, you're going to get zero in your equity account in your house because your house is not going to go up. Okay? We have a fundamental, University of Chicago, let's connect another dot. Their report, and these guys are the Milt Friedman pros from Dover, and nobody has challenged that report. 42% of all of these unemployment jobs are never coming back. Never coming back. That means that of 30, it's 15 million today are never coming back. At a growth economy, if you grow an economy, basically the way the math works, at 3% growth, 2.5 to 3% growth, the unemployment number stays about the same. You're not actually increasing jobs. You got to get over 2.5 and 3% to grow, in real basis, not to drop 40% and then have 2% growth. I mean, in real growth. What they're forecasting is that this is Steve Cortez. He's going to be on 11 o'clock. He keeps saying it. And we're walking into an economic inferno. Right now, we're living on a sugar high. We got the sugar high. We've hit this thing with $9 trillion. $9 trillion of a bazooka in capital markets from the Fed, and then another $3 trillion from the Treasury. And you've got now Nancy Pelosi with the other fiscal, the $3 trillion, and President Trump is going to come forward with jobs. We're trying to get Hawley's coming forward. The Senate, the fire-breathing populists in the Senate are coming forward. Hawley's coming forward now with the jobs program out of the Senate. He's got Cory Gardner signed up, and Cory Gardner was a Freedom Caucus guy. He's now signing up. I don't know if it's about political survival or the survival of the United States of America. So let's tee up. We got Senator Rand Paul in a very special segment about to come up. He's taking time away. We're huge Rand Paul fans, although we don't agree with Rand Paul on everything, as we don't agree with anybody on anything. But let's go back. You
just said we don't agree with anybody on anything.
Okay,
which is true.
Everybody on everything.
Can I
Many
just
people
ask you,
are saying. Yes.
Can I just ask you a question on that whole thing? If you're someone like me, I'm 33 years old. I came into the job market in 2009, right? So it wasn't a pleasant experience. My first job was with a Lehman Brothers subsidiary outside of London. If you're somebody like me and you hear all these numbers, 9 trillion, et cetera, walking into the inferno, well, number one, where is this money going? Okay, where does the 9 trillion go? If you're somebody like me sitting at home, you're going, what is he talking about?
6 trillion right now have gone to support what they call asset classes, bonds, corporate bonds. We're doing things we've never done before by the Federal Reserve because of the crisis caused by the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, here's what's happening. They are now supporting bonds. They're supporting corporate bonds, high yield bonds, government treasuries. We're monetizing the debt. We're every day adding to the balance sheet of the Fed to support the asset classes, basically the capital markets. So otherwise, you'd have a deflationary collapse of that. The stock market would go down to 12,000. You couldn't issue equity to build companies. The bonds would collapse. Guys wouldn't get paid back. This is what's called a solvency crisis and a liquidity crisis, and they try to solve it by doing extraordinary things. Remember, I argued a couple months ago. You combine kind of the Treasury and the Fed for some emergency measures. We took emergency measures. Now, this happened in Japan back in the 90s because of this asset bubble they had, okay, when that collapsed. This is what happened in 2008. We did it that time looked like it was huge. It's dwarfed by this. Here's the point. The point is that the road forward is going to be, and this is why we got to stop the happy talk. This is not going to rebound in July. And it's time to be straight with the American people. We need to be straight with the American people. The president has been the greatest jobs president, I think, in history, or at least second to FDR up until now. He's got to become better than FDR as a jobs president. The way to focus on things right now is these guys you've done enough, at least today, for the capital markets, for the financial side, the monetary side we're talking about. You got the fiscal side. What they need to focus on now is jobs, jobs, jobs. We can't survive. If the University of Chicago is right that 42% of those jobs are not coming back, we're not going to make it because you're going to have your budget deficits are going to be so huge to support that. We have to now focus on engines of growth, and that is these jobs have to come back from China. We have to bring the manufacturing jobs. He just said it, BUNSEN, right there. You have to have manufacturing. Look, I understand we're going to be in a fourth industrial revolution. This is what China was playing. Made in China 2025, they understood that the conversions of advanced chip design, robotics, and AI was going to create the fourth industrial revolution, and they were going to be the engine. They were going to drive that, okay? We allowed that to happen. Wall Street, we now need to bring that back to the United States. We're going to be let out of this not as a service economy. We're seeing the risk we took in a service economy because once the centerpieces of the economy collapse, all the little yoga studios and the Pilates studios, which are all fine. Don't get me wrong. I love that stuff. Those little entrepreneurs doing this, but that all goes away, right? And now you need to get serious. Listen, in the 19th century, it was called the American system of Alexander Hamilton and Jackson and Polk and Lincoln. Lincoln, first and foremost, was a nationalist. It was Southern independence and slavery is about labor, right? These were nationalists. They built up a national system, and they used tariffs to do it. They understood in this vast continent with all these resources. It was Hamilton's report on manufacturers. We have to if we're going to split from the British Empire, we need to become a superpower of manufacturing in this new Jerusalem that we now have, right? And we're going to obviously settle at some point in time. We can't live off. We're not going to live off as a tributary state. They could see that Britain, with the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the steam engine, was going to become the manufacturing center of the world. That was going to be China, and these visionaries said, "No, we're going to build it here." Because otherwise we'll be dependent upon these guys. We'll continually be a tributary state. We'll be doing their timber and their hogs, and we'll just, we have these yeoman farmers, and you'll never create enough value to do that. And that's been the big shift. There are decades in which nothing happens, and there are weeks in which decades happen. You are living right now. Decisions are being made that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to live with. When you talk about numbers at this scale, and let's turn to the centerpiece of this pandemic is still the virus, this plague that was sent throughout the world by the Chinese Communist Party. And now we have the media trying to get the big break between Dr. Fauci. And by the way, we've got live breaking news here because Dr. Bright from BARDA is up now at the witch hunt too. Is this what it is, or is he?
Yeah, no, and he's up there, and so he has. Oh wait, he's taking off his face mask, guys. This is danger. Okay, it's going back.
Wow.
On. Okay, so Dr. Bright, I
can't see. Don't tell me he's not testifying with a mask on.
Yes, oh, he is. Yeah, no, it's a black mask, and look, he's testifying with it on. He has his Clorox wipes. He has his Purell. He has but he's not wearing gloves. This is danger. He's not. This is fast and reckless.
Danger, Will Rogers.
Do you know what this is? This is emblematic of this nonsensical, absolute state of fear that our leaders have put us into with this disease here. Even the resident commissioner of Puerto Rico yesterday showed more courage than the entire U.S. Senate. She said, "Listen, we cannot collapse our entire economy. We have to learn to live with this disease." I'd like to see a little courage like that stateside.
All right, so let me go into
the question. Wait a minute, Jack. Is it too late?
No, it's not too late. It's never too late to show courage. Okay, this is the American character that we're.
Is it the economy? From what I understand, we're already at this 42% of jobs not coming back. Is that not just another form of showboating there?
Well, here you see also the Association of Small Businesses Human Resources Management says that 52% of small businesses in America will be out of business in 6 months.
All right, guys. You're getting way lost in the weeds. I'm sorry. Okay, so we have Rick Bright up here right now.
It is Jack Maxey.
I know, but you guys need to do your homework here. So we have a guy who's up there right now who makes $285,000 a year. That's who's okay. So he got moved from one job to the other, where he's going to have even more oversight on things like hydroxychloroquine and different therapeutics and things he's working on.
He got promoted.
Yeah, and so listen to this. He has hired Christine Blasey Ford's attorney. Why does this former BARDA guy need Christine Blasey Ford, the Kavanaugh accuser? Why does he need her attorney if he's not going full partisan here? Here's the other thing, too. You might ask, why is he this Anna Eshoo Energy and Commerce Subcommittee hearing right now? Because Anna Eshoo has been his longtime buddy. He's sent all these projects to her district in Northern California. Dan Diamond from Politico has actually I got to give him credit. He did a deep dive on this morning. It's in Politico. And so that's why he's in Anna Eshoo's subcommittee.
So isn't she compromised out?
Well, that's the whole thing. So, guys, nothing in politics happens by coincidence.
There's no coincidence. He's saying, actually, he warns of, quote, unprecedented illness and fatalities. Is that the takeaway in his headline?
He said this is going to be the darkest winter in modern history in his comments that were leaked out. And so, guys, look, all you need to know, he hired Christine Blasey Ford's attorney. He has Anna Eshoo, his longtime buddy, who he sent all these projects to. Guys, this is what you call a political hatchet job.
In the war room, winter's not coming. Spring is here. And Senator Rand Paul with it. Next on War Room, pandemic.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision. We can listen to your advice, but there are people on the other side saying there's not going to be a surge and that we can safely open the economy, and the facts will bear this out. But if we keep kids out of school for another year, what's going to happen is the poor and underprivileged kids who don't have a parent that's able to teach them at home are not going to learn for a full year.
One of the great patriots in the United States, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, they're having, I think, the most dramatic moment from that hearing. And actually, I think Senator Paul thinks very highly of Dr. Fauci. So you see the gentlemanliness of that, but really putting it forward that, hey, you know, when it comes to economics and comes to overall the country, you're a great doctor. In fact, Dr. Rand Paul's a doctor. Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much for joining us on War Room Pandemic.
Glad to be with you guys.
Senator, I want to go right into an important point that you made during the hearing the other day when you talked about the changing models and the changing projections and the debate that is out there. As someone who is a doctor, as someone who's a policymaker, someone who's observing this, what is your greatest frustration with the information flow that is coming from our professional folks in both the medical and scientific communities?
I think it's important not to give too much credit to anyone who prognosticates about the future. As you know from the economic world, people make projections all the time and they're wrong all the time. And so we should be too careful. We should be pretty careful about structuring our whole economy or whether all the kids in the whole country go to school based on projections. You have to remember some of these people told us about 2 or 3 months ago that we were complete idiots if we wore masks. Now they're telling us we're criminals if we don't wear masks. So you can see how I might have a little bit of doubt as to their projections. Dr. Fauci and others were promoting this guy, Neil Ferguson, for a long time. Turns out Neil Ferguson's been way wrong a lot of times. You know, he was projecting 2 million deaths, and everybody's saying, oh, we didn't have 2 million deaths. He must have corrected it. Or maybe his projection was way off to begin with. Neil Ferguson is the same guy who predicted 136,000 people would die from mad cow disease, and only 177 died. That's a little bit of an error rate there. But I think we have to take with a grain of salt these people. But also, we shouldn't be so afraid of them that we don't question them on the facts. My question to Dr. Fauci, I think, is a very good one. If kids aren't going to go to school because of lack of testing or this and that or vaccines, shouldn't we at least also discuss what the mortality rate is among children? And when you look at the data from New York and New Jersey, between the ages of 0 and 18, the mortality rate approaches 0. I mean, it really does. And if you look closely as to how Dr. Fauci responded to me, he actually responded with emotions, not facts. He said there are some kids who are dying from Kawasaki's disease. That is true, but he didn't mention the number or their statistical significance. Now, if it's your kid, it doesn't matter about statistics. You know, if you lose your child, you can't replace your child. But if you're talking about closing schools for the country, you have to talk about statistics. The statistics are that the mortality rate between 0 and 18 is close to 0. There's a handful at most. In fact, 2 weeks ago, there were 0. Now with this Kawasaki's disease, I think there's 2 or 3. That's a very, very small percentage. The New York data, when you look at age 18 to 45, is 10 deaths per 100,000. So that should take into perspective. What it should show us is that we shouldn't treat everyone the same. The mortality is very high, over 80, and for those in nursing homes, and very low for the young. So I think that should enter into our calculations when we decide, you know, if someone's going to name themselves czar of schools and say who goes and who doesn't, which is also a dumb idea in the first place to make a decision for the whole country the same. But really, if someone's going to do that, they ought to talk about all the facts, and we shouldn't be afraid to challenge so-called experts and authorities.
And thank you for saying that, because I agree that you can't have one person making the decision nationwide. I want to stick with the models aspect for a moment here. So we've talked a lot on the show about the IHME model, which, by the way, revised downward deaths in Georgia this week, even though Georgia is supposedly the redheaded stepchild. But why is only the Wharton study, where it had both the economics and the jobs as well as the mortalities, why have we only seen this one major study that's combined the two? It seems to me this should be something that we're debating, that there are a number of models, a number of projections, so policymakers like yourself can make the best decisions.
Well, I think it's important for everybody to understand that none of these models have been anywhere close to accurate. And the only reason they even make any sense at all is they change them every day based on facts. So as they get closer and closer and have more facts, all of a sudden the models become better. But the models were terrible preceding this, and then we based policy on the models. We should never let these people, it's sort of like having fortune tellers decide what your economy should do. It's not a very good science. It's not a real sound science, and there's a lot of conjecture in it, and people can have different models and different conjecture, but it's a reason why we don't put all of the power and all of the economic activity, we don't put it under the direction of one person. In fact, I think we have a name for that. What was it? Socialism. We didn't like socialism. How in the pandemic, and all of a sudden everybody's a socialist. Everybody says, oh, the governor of your state can tell you what kind of business can be open and closed. It's crazy.
Let me ask you, the president, this is Steve, Senator Paul, the president thinks very highly of you. I would say that he probably holds you in higher esteem than most people in the United States Senate. Why, number one, why are you not on the task force? And if you were on the task force, what would be the 2 or 3 things you would tell the president as his consigliere?
You know, I talk to the president pretty frequently. I talked to him this week, and I was just joking about him wanting to adopt me. I don't think he really wants to adopt me. Although, see, now I have a beard just like his kids, and I talked to him. He says, "I'm not sure about the beard. I'd probably lose the beard." But when I talk to him exactly and say exactly the same things I've been saying to you, that I think the most important thing to learn is one size doesn't fit all. New York City really did have a tough go of it with this, and I think there are reasons for that. The main reason New York City had so much trouble is they have the highest population density in the country. I saw a statistic that just amazed me. 1.7 million people came home from other countries in the month of February to New York. 1.7 million in 1 month. I don't know if that's an average month or people were worried about the pandemic and they all came home. 139,000 came from Italy. So you can imagine the people who came from all around the world, probably dozens and dozens of them brought the virus home. And so we didn't have like one vector. Like in Washington, they probably had one person that sort of started it. In New York, I don't know, there might have been 100, 500, could have been 1,000 people come home. And so that's why there's this enormous problem with it. I don't think, and this is an opinion, but I don't think government response has done much to this, to tell you the truth. Maybe a little bit. Having less big concerts and things, we may have slowed it down a little bit. But in reality, I think the virus is kind of doing what it wants to do, basically. I don't think we've been able to slow it down a great deal. In the rural areas, we're doing a lot better just because we have less people and less population density. We don't have subways. And so, but I think it's been largely independent of government policy. And the reason I think that's important to discuss is maybe we don't have to be in a permanent lockdown. Maybe the rural states really were never at such a great risk, and we've passed the risk now. Maybe we should open immediately and not take 6 months to open our economies.
Hey, Senator, this is Jack Maxey. Can you come on the show every day? Because I need some support here. You know? I've been forced to defend Sweden for the last 2 months.
Well, I want to go real quickly because we're pressed for time. We want to get to the Obamagate stuff. But real quick, you and your father have stood up for the American people about the Federal Reserve. Yesterday, Powell talked about we got 10 years ahead of us of tough times. We just had a guy on here, one of the top financial analysts, that said, hey, you're seeing the Japanification of the American economy. What would you do and recommend to the president now that we've unloaded a $6 trillion bazooka from the Fed into the capital markets? What says Rand Paul, who for years has been telling me when you ran for president, the first thing you're going to do is audit the Fed? What does Rand Paul say about our financial situation?
The first thing I'd say is the same way people are bad at predicting the economy, they're also terrible at predicting pandemics. It's a different set of people, but they're all pretty bad at predicting the future. They all told us, remember, before President Trump was elected, they told us, we are going to languish in the Federal Reserve. We are going to languish for 10 years, and we'll have less than 1% or 1.5% growth forever. Guess what? We cut taxes. We let people keep their money. Business boomed. Revenue went up. Not one person in the mainstream media will tell you this, and it's absolutely the truth. And when you tell them, they sit back and they don't believe it and they respond. Tax revenue went up when we cut tax rates. Supply side economics, lo and behold, actually did work. When we cut rates, we got more revenue, and actually we got economic growth too. Now, we are in a devastating position right now, and my opinion is this: no amount of money will get us out of it. If you write me a $1,200 check or write my kids a $1,200 check or you write them a $12,000 check, that's not the problem. It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of commerce. So you can give people $120,000 a piece. You can print up all the money, borrow all the money in China, print up all the money at the Fed and give it to everybody. You don't fix the situation. The problem is lack of freedom of commerce. So I wouldn't do much of anything yet. I would just open the economy. I would have unemployment insurance, and I think that's important. But they also screwed that up, too, because they made unemployment insurance, the wage from government for not working is greater than the wage for working. And so we've got at least 2 more months of institutionalized unemployment, because who the hell wants to go back to work for half of what they get from unemployment? So government makes every problem worse. All the projections are probably wrong, and we won't know any kind of real projections until we open the economy. So rather than just do trillions of dollars more in bailouts, I would open the economy. So I beat up my governor every day because he deserves every bit of it. He banned church service, he banned travel. The courts have knocked him down. He now told people yesterday he's not going to let daycare open until there's a vaccine. Well, you idiot, what if there never is a vaccine? We're never going to have daycare again. Working parents will never be able to work. This is the kind of thing we're struggling with. And he's doing it all by himself. No consent from the legislature, no consent from anyone. One person is running the entire economy of Kentucky.
Senator, we just have a couple of minutes left, but I want to go into the big scandal from yesterday. Of course, this isn't anything new to you. You've been the OG on FISA reform, if there ever has been one. Where do you think ultimately this goes with Joe Biden clearly lying to George Stephanopoulos earlier this week and his campaign putting out a real non-denial and the president tweeting out this morning that he wants Lindsey Graham to hold hearings on this? Where do you think this goes next?
Well, I think it's important for people to know what unmasking is. It's not some sort of benign thing. When you unmask someone, you are illegally eavesdropping on their conversation. Whoever got a warrant got a secret warrant from a foreign surveillance court, probably, for the ambassador. They didn't get a warrant for General Flynn. They had no right to listen to it. In fact, they're supposed to sort of turn their phone off when they find out they've got an American on there. So the only way they could possibly listen to it is they have to say, there's a national security risk now. So they would have to allege that he and Kislyak, the ambassador to Russia from Russia, were plotting the overthrow of the United States. Nobody says that. There was no national security risk. They were discussing policy of the United States with Russia, which you would think would be fine for someone who's going to be the national security advisor for a president. But the bottom line is what Biden did, and Clapper and Comey and all dozens of people listened in on this phone call, illegal, immoral, and in the end, it's the greatest abuse of government power to go after a political opponent. You remember when some Democrats were making that accusation of the president? This is provable, and this is a much, much more severe abuse of power simply to go after a political opponent.
You've got 30 seconds, Senator. What's the remedy? What does Rand Paul say the remedy to this is?
My remedy today is I have an amendment to FISA. I think FISA shouldn't be used on Americans. So what happened to Donald Trump and to the campaign should never happen again. The rest of the reforms, I think, are weak sauce. They're trying to make the FISA system less bad. I acknowledge that the FISA system is unconstitutional for Americans, fine for foreigners, fine for terrorists, but you should never allow the FISA court ever again. And if you want to see who the patriots are, see who votes for my amendment today. It's not going to pass. But see who votes to actually say Americans and presidential campaigns should never, ever, ever be investigated by FISA court again.
Senator Rand Paul is an American patriot, an American hero, and a fighter. Thank you, Senator Paul. Thank you for joining us today. I know it's a big day for you.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to be back with War and Pandemic to talk about it all. Hashtag War and Pandemic in a moment.
Tired of struggling with regular mirrors that don't adjust so you can't get close enough? Need both hands but you don't have a stand? Can't move in the right direction to see your own reflection? You need Flexible Mirror, the bendable, light-up magnification mirror that comes to you. Watch. Just stick it on and turn the base. The super suction locking mechanism means you can put it on any smooth surfaced place, horizontal or vertical. Lock it onto any mirror, table, or desk. Use it in the shower, even on a window. The secret is Flexible Mirror's super strong articulating arm that's attached with an ingenious ball and socket so it can swivel and rotate for the perfect angle. And look how strong it holds. The mirror is precision crafted with 10 times magnification and crystal clear optics. And with a soft glow LED ring, you'll get picture-perfect lighting to highlight every detail. Flexible Mirror makes shaving, applying makeup, hairstyling, grooming, and accessorizing easier than ever before. Plus, men, listen up. The 10 times magnification makes it perfect for giving your beard a detailed trim. Whatever you need to do, Flexible Mirror comes to you. Plus, the contemporary chrome accents add a lovely modern touch to any room. Stop struggling to put in your delicate contacts and let Flexible Mirror come to you, so it's much easier to do. Similar mirrors can cost as much as $100, and they don't even come to you. But you can get Flexible Mirror for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. We guarantee you'll love the Flexible Mirror so much that it comes with our 90-day, no questions asked money-back guarantee. And here's the best part. We give you free shipping on your entire order. That's right, free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-987-6183. That's 1-800-987-6183 or order online at tryflexiblemirror.com.
Hello, I'm William Shatner, and you may not know this about me, but years ago, I was diagnosed with a sleep disorder. And like millions of others, I was prescribed sleep equipment. Did you know sleep equipment manufacturers recommend daily cleaning? That's why I use SoClean. It's the perfect complement to my daily routine, and it's hassle-free. SoClean is fast and easy. It keeps my sleep equipment fresh every day without the need for disassembly.
With SoClean, daily maintenance is a snap. All you do is place your equipment in, close the lid, and walk away. You can try SoClean risk-free for 30 nights. Order now and get a $50 rebate.
SoClean is so fast and gives you peace of mind that your sleep equipment is fresh each time you use it.
Call 1-800-648-4349. And for a limited time, get a $50 rebate. Call 1-800-648-4349 or go to SoClean.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Man, if he was like that in 2016? That was a man on fire right there. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell you libertarians, I know you claim Rand Paul. I'm saying he's populist, man. That is a fire-breathing populist right there. This thing in the Federal Reserve, he's going to be the leader in this. His father, from day one, said you got to get in there, audit this thing. We got to know what's going on. We got to know what they're buying, what they're not buying, what the balance sheet of the United States is. Rand Paul's going to lead this. That's what we led with BUNSEN before Rand Paul came on. This situation with the Federal Reserve is going to be a massive issue. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have done what they've done, but it needs control and it needs people's voices on there. And Rand Paul's going to leave that. I got to tell you, for an interview that had the pandemic, the science of it, had the Federal Reserve, the complexity of the capital markets, and did have the complexity of FISA, which is a very complicated topic, the all war on terror and all that. That is a brother on fire.
You know what I like? I like the fact that he always defaults to the Constitution. And the thing that he said at the end of this thing, everybody should see who the patriots are, who the people are who take their oath responsibly. I do solemnly swear to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Let's see who votes for Rand Paul's amendment today to protect American citizens from illegal and warrantless searches.
See, Ted Cruz is in the middle of this, and here's the thing. We understand it's a national security issue, but everything that Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and the kind of more libertarian, limited government guys have been saying for years, all those abuses were shown over the last couple of years in the FISA courts. Rand Paul's been right. Ted Cruz has been right. They've been warning about this on the Patriot Act and all. And look, it's a trade-off between the national security guys and the libertarian element. But Cruz and Rand Paul on the facts have been right.
Yeah, and look, as someone who's fought alongside with Senator Paul, who's fought against him in campaigns, who has always respected his mindset and his ability, there's something to just take you guys into the campaign mindset and why he's going to be a player going forward. Less is more. And what Rand Paul showed there in that interview is that he can move from the theoretical answers that maybe go 10 minutes each into the tight, concise, empirical-based, outcome-driven answers in his own style. So he goes with this, he'll go through, pull some Constitution, have some great lines like weak sauce. He's doing, he's punching people right in the face, a little bit of humor, but the deep intellect, but it's concise. And for me, seeing him as a candidate, that maturation as a political candidate, that's why he's going to be such a bigger player going forward.
He's had to overcome, that weak staff of Sergio and those guys. I'm just kidding. We love Sergio. I tell you, it's spectacular. One other thing I want to say. I think the President of the United States ought to recommend to Vice President Pence today. You augment the task force because they haven't bifurcated the task force yet into economics, and it's still the task force. Rand Paul is a guy. He's a doctor. He covers both. He knows more about the Federal Reserve than most guys in the Senate. He knows the medical and can ask the sharp questions. He knows modeling, both the econometrics and the thing. Rand Paul should be on the committee this afternoon as a special augmentee from Capitol Hill. He's a guy, and the president, and they don't always agree. but he respects Rand Paul, and he particularly respects Rand Paul where he disagrees with him. Rand Paul, and this is my point from the other day. Fauci said this, and you saw the president in the interview with Maria Bartiromo and others. The president had not heard Fauci say that. You know why the president hadn't heard it? Because Fauci had never said it to the task force, which is not acceptable. And this is the hypocrisy of the mainstream media. They still have not called Fauci out on not enough data, not enough science, not enough evidence-based, just all this kind of airy-fairy happy talk. If you had Rand Paul on the task force sitting between the scarf and Dr. Fauci, right, they would be on point, right? They would be on point because Rand Paul would be lighting them up for the better, to try to make the team better. Look, this is not about politics. We have to save the country. We understand. You heard BUNSEN. You heard the Federal Reserve Chief. You heard Rand Paul. We got to open this thing up, but you got to do it rapidly but safely. Rapidly but safely. We have to do that. And to do that, you got to bring the best team. Rand Paul should not be sitting up here on Capitol Hill or out in Kentucky. He needs to be on that task force. Vice President Pence needs to put Rand Paul on that task force today.
One thing that I thought stood out to me, and it's a criticism. I know we're all gleeful about it, but
we make it's an observation.
It's an observation. Is and by the way, this is why it works to have him on the task force, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to balance views there, right? And that's why it works. But it's the sort of Neil Ferguson, the models are wrong kind of thing. And this is what Rich Lowry wrote about in the Politico op-ed that he's had as well, about Fauci not, he's emblematic of the problem, not the problem himself, right? This comes down to, hey, look, you ask these universities to do these models, they're going to do the models. You ask these guys to put out worst-case scenarios, they're going to give you worst-case scenarios. You don't have to make policy based on those worst-case scenarios. So what I would like to have heard a little bit there was, okay, and let's take the UK as an example, since Neil Ferguson and Imperial were from there. The British government should have looked at that model that said, X million dead if we don't do anything, and gone, okay, that's a worst-case scenario. We don't necessarily need to make policy based on the very, very extreme that a modeling person comes out with. And that's where I think we can't lose sight of the fact that politicians are not scientists, and we don't want them to become that. But as you said, we do want those balanced voices in the room and on the task force to say, hey, that's all well and good. You think this is the worst-case scenario. We have a constitution, we have an economy to worry about as well. And that's what Fauci's whole thing, where he says, oh, I'm not the be-all and end-all, it doesn't make any sense, because is Fauci sitting there genuinely thinking that his recommendations are not going to impact the economy?
Well, and that's where I tried to get with the issue of the Wharton study, where this was the only one. Again, not saying the Wharton study walks on water, but I'm saying it was the only one that...
The construct of it does.
The construct was the only one that has combined both the economic and the mortality rates. That's important. Right. I want to see all the models start combining things like that and looking through it. And look, more models and the data, the better, because these are the things we're gonna base it on, and not just all national. Let's talk state specific.
We got Cortez coming back in the next segment, and we're going to talk about this economy. We got to. If you're at home with no job and you got no pension now, we're going to get to this. One thing we're also going to talk in the second half on War Room Impeachment, the predecessor show. We hammered Lindsey Graham, and we love Lindsey Graham. When Lindsey Graham talked smack and said, "I'm going to have them all up there, Mr. President. We don't need to have the impeachment. I'm going to have them all up there." Today, it shouldn't be upon Rand Paul to call for that, and it shouldn't be for the President of the United States to have to tweet this thing out. You're either in or you're out, right? This is what's so frustrating to people. You either do what you say you're going to do or you're not, and Trump should not be put in that position. We'll be back with Cortez on the economy and the financial markets next.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. You know me as the My Pillow guy, but what you might not know is my story. I've spent years writing my memoir, and it's finally done. Before this terrible pandemic came upon us, I had already wrote, I dedicate this book to anyone looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. And I've always used mathematics to prove that God exists. In our lives, we've had things happen that are 1 in a million or 1 in a billion, or we might say that's impossible. Well, when do we say it all has to be a miracle? My life has been like living inside of a movie, and in my book, I have pictures that are going to validate everything that you're going to read. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible.
Mike spent the last 7 years writing his book to share his life story. In this difficult time we are in, Mike's book will bring much needed inspiration and hope to everyone who reads it.
But now the game was over. The house had won. I was going to die right here on this deserted street. A small item in the news. American tourist goes missing in Mexico.
Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free